Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody from the Switch community. We're on quite a journey. I think everybody's on quite a journey when it comes to smart buildings. And it's wonderful to be with Switch and with Nexton to be on that journey. My name is Nicholas White. I'm one of 3 co-founders of the Smart Building Certification. And Smart Building Certification was really launched out of necessity. We were doing a lot of living labs, research projects, building smart spaces from scratch in order to get the data out of that we needed to look at human performance, health, sustainability, all of these things. And every time we would get these things completely built, we would get amazing data. It would drive fantastic results as far as research was concerned and getting out exactly what we needed. But when we would leave, those living labs, those technical infrastructures would fall over. There wouldn't be anybody there to manage it, wouldn't be anybody to keep it moving and keep that optimization and keep that live smart building going. So we started having all kinds of round the table discussions of where is there a standard that we can just plug into? Where is there one that we can really, work as a community in real estate and smart buildings to work in a common way? And it didn't exist. Everybody on these roundtable discussions says that's a really cool idea, but it doesn't exist yet. This is about mid 2019. And then we started thinking, well, we know a smart building certification is coming because the built world loves certifications, and there's certifications for absolutely everything else. So why wouldn't there be one for smart? And we started to get a little bit concerned that it would maybe just be a checklist of what technologies do you have in your building, and here's your stamp, and then they would move on to the next. And we thought it needs to go further than that. It needs to not only be about the technology do you have in your building, but what are you doing with that technology? How is it embedded in the business process so it continues to live, continues to optimize, continues to do things? How is governance built up around it? And then how do we actually get the most out of it as a community? And so we set it out, and in early 2020, we launched it. And here we are 2 years later with a lot of experience and a lot of wonderful things to talk about. It's fantastic to be here. So I'm going to hand over my introduction over to Rebecca from Switch itself and hear from her.
Thanks, Nicholas. Hi, I'm Rebecca Reel, Director of Engineering at Switch Automation out of our Denver, Colorado office. I'm also a Smart Building Certification Assessor, part of the first cohort that graduated this year. I've been in engineering almost 20 years now with a degree in mechanical engineering, experience in general contracting, mechanical system design, energy and sustainability consulting. And I'm here because I'm driven by efficiency, and smart is one aspect of that. I'm here because I want to see automation and see these tools to assist buildings, like Nicholas was saying, on an ongoing manner to achieve optimization and achieve their goals everywhere from, a building manager, portfolio manager, owners, and tenants. And I'm definitely an assessor because I don't want to see people just checking boxes. I want to see smart be something living, and I want to see that community grow and smart to continue to advance. And I'm excited to be an assessor and to have great partners like Ruijter at Nexton.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Ruijter. I work at Nexton here in the Netherlands. We operate here mainly in the Benelux and Western Europe. I used to work in the energy sector, and that's where I first experienced what data can do, being flexible on the grid. After that, making a move to a large lighting vendor, getting to know what sensors can add to that and what we can do with predictive data. Now here at Nexton, Nexton is originally a contractor within the electrical and the mechanical engineering And what we do, we make beautiful projects, and what we notice that the technology in our buildings, the data within there lies a large opportunity. So we started to go a lot more and have a focus on smart buildings, mainly because we know that the energy transition and the sustainability challenges that we have, it's a necessity to have a larger volume of smarter buildings and predictive energy uses, predictive maintenance to prevent energy leakage. So this is what our day-to-day topic is, and we partnered with Switch Automation as well as the Smart Building Certification. I've met with Switch almost 2 years now, and we've set up a partnership since earlier this year, because I believe that a data-driven approach, the way Switch does, is the solution. And together with the Smart Building Certification, we build on that, and we use that to set up the conversation like here. So thank you.
Great. So Nicholas, what are you seeing as the impact of SMART?
And I love this question. And I think, coming from researching human performance and productivity and kind of what the built environment was doing for individuals, it was one perspective. And Richard and I were just at a conference earlier today. For us, it's kind of the evening. For you all, it's the morning. And it is just incredible to see how many solutions are out there solving problems, and it's not only about the solutions, it's about the strategies, it's about the certifications. There's so many different kind of things you can do. And so I would say that SMART has thousands of value cases that it can do to deliver better buildings. And it's from the sustainability side, from the efficiency side, but it's also for new business models, tenant engagement, how an asset is being used. So for property management, how a building is managing and maintaining its systems and its tools, how we're keeping people safe and secure, and how people are interacting with the building and interacting with the businesses that are operating within that building. So for us, where it got really complicated or complex with the Smart Building Certification is that we see so many different stakeholders who have their view on it, and we see so many different solutions that it's very easy to get lost in the noise. And the values are really in the results that we're after. So it's not about the technology itself, it's about what you're trying to achieve with that technology. And so for an organization, it's really important to get very clear on what you're trying to do and then work backwards and think about how you're going to actually tackle that. So I would say there's a lot of different values. And I can give you just real quickly a couple different examples. I think what we've seen is buildings that are really focusing a lot on energy efficiency, keeping things more sustainable. So ESG goals, sustainability goals, these types of things, that in itself has a lot of value. We're seeing companies trying to bring their people back to work and work in an efficient way, in a healthy way, staying safe from pathogens and viruses. SMART definitely adds a lot of value in that space. We're seeing businesses based on their smart infrastructure build completely new business models where they're actually based on data, driving different financial systems. And I think these, the spectrum is massive. What do you think is the value of it?
I really think one big aspect of the impact of SMART is being able to measure the impact. So if you know what you want to see, you can then measure and track towards that. I also see as a way to identify, where the areas you can improve, should improve.
Yeah,
Richard?
absolutely.
I totally agree. That is the impact now of smart. But what we see with our technical devices and our vehicles, I truly believe that the impact of smart is going to be a lot bigger in the future. I think this is with the real estate industry tagging along with the smart developments. I believe this is the start where we will digitalize pretty much everything, and yeah, now it's all about efficiency and sustainability. But later on, data will help us at large. Being more comfortable in our daily life, other than only the time we spend in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think what we see in the industry is a lot of silos, in the sense of individual solutions solving individual problems, individual buildings, building, you know, a smart building. And I think I completely agree with you, Richard, that impact of smart is spreading. It's spreading beyond the building. It's spreading into smart cities. It's spreading into portfolios. And I think it's really interesting to keep our finger on how to add value for each one of those different steps in the process. And I love that I get to ask the next question to Richard. What do you see kind of as the biggest challenge when it comes to the portfolio, right? Where we have multiple buildings under one umbrella. What are we seeing there, and what is the biggest challenge? Because I know one of our key objectives as our partnership with Nexton is looking at portfolios, right? How do we do it on a larger scale than just individuals? So yeah, I'm curious to pick your brain on this.
Yeah, a good question, because that's where my journey started here at Nexton. The biggest challenge is that 99% of the buildings in the portfolio are in use. Newly built, okay, we can mold that into the result we want to, but in a portfolio you see a lot of different vendors, a lot of different standalone situations that not necessarily would like to talk to each other, but all the vendors within their own silos, they also want a piece of the pie, and they want to expand their business and wanting to become a data company. Where I say, well, in the future, this is a society problem. As sustainability is something we should tackle as a society. We should do a lot more together. So I believe, how can we add the circular thought? How can we use the existing components in buildings within a portfolio in the new situation? So how can we extract data from that? And then you do not desire an application approach, but you want a data approach. And that's mainly the reason why we partnered up with Switch. They tackle that topic very easy for us. Where I started is, I think everybody should focus on their core business, because then we'll have the best result ever. You do not want to have a very high quality component with an slightly less than average platform or data set that comes out of it. So I think the IT world should tag along with the larger vendors, and Switch makes this possible for us. We want the best of breed in both worlds without having to replace all of the components in a building. Of course, what we see a lot is some of the components need to be replaced. We initially, without being too technical, we want to create an IP backbone in pretty much every building, and we want to use that to build on and add future innovations. So the first thing you need to do is know, what do we have? As Switch developed the DX Cube, where we can test buildings on where they are currently at in their smart building journey, and that really makes our life pretty much easy, because probably we need LED lighting, and we need to have a light management system that connects that, well, preferable on an open standard to on each other before we can access the data and eventually control it. But the DX Cube provides me with the insight of each building out of the portfolio, so we can make a journey and, well, and tackle the first steps. So a lot of different people talking a lot of different languages is, well, is the problem. Is the biggest problem here in the portfolio.
Yeah.
So I do not want to tackle the biggest part of the answer towards Rebecca, but yeah, I'm curious, how did they experience that in the beginning, and where does it go from here? So what would be the solution to onboard these portfolios and tackle the biggest problem that we have on our way to reaching our goals? Rebecca.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's partnering, like you said, Richard. We want everyone to do what they do best. But then we need to have this community, like Smart Building Certification is trying to find, and Switch is trying to do, right? Like you said, platform, that's kind of a software term, so everyone might not relate to that. It's kind of like an operating system, right? Like you have your nice new, indoor air quality sensors. That's awesome. And you have this vendor that's been doing your utility bills for 20 years. That's awesome. We want to work with both of them. We want to work with, your new buildings and your old buildings, whatever vendor it happens to be, to have that community, to have that all in one place to allow you to have those correlations and make those insights.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's quite amazing. Richard, I really like what you said about, that we need to focus on the data. When we go to build buildings, it's a 5-year, 10-year trajectory before something actually, went from the moment you start it to when it gets delivered. So the technology advancement in that time is incredible, right? So how do we, from a portfolio perspective, keep alignment of just the technology components? And I think the other point that you mentioned, Rebecca, that I think is really interesting is every situation is very different, right? Every building is different, every management structure, every way in which people are getting data or working with various suppliers. So we, as a platform or as an ecosystem, we like to call it, we have to be flexible in how we're able to work with each one of those different situations. And the certification itself has worked really hard at trying to make it so that it is context driven, so that it is based on the situation at hand, be it the asset class, or the stakeholder we're speaking to, or the technologies that we're dealing with. Really trying to find a way to help people communicate with each other in the same way, in the same language. I think that's really, really important. Absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed there was a live question from Teresa van Dam. And I know what I would say, but it's for you, Nicholas. On the eyes of Smart Building Certification, what is the main purpose of the data? Is it efficiency, automation, sustainability, safety? What is the core of the certification?
Oh, I think that's a really interesting question, because it very much depends on the stakeholders and the output that they're trying to generate from it. So for instance, if we're talking about efficiency, you're looking at your how are you as a building manager or building owner trying to improve the asset deliverability to the tenants or to the new owners. So, it's looking at the data on occupancy and how something's being used. It's looking at the data on how often machines or how well energy is being managed, these types of things. And from that data, you can drive efficiencies from humans. One of the things that we define as smart is really where technology and humans meet, because we just don't have autonomous buildings yet. It may come. I think it's a little ways out still, but we always, as humans, need to be looking at that data and doing something with it. On the other hand, there are things that we can drive autonomously. So the data can drive ventilation systems on demand, temperature changing and different CO2 levels and these types of things. So there's a combination there. And what we really look at is what are you trying to do? What technology do you have? Do the right people have access to the data? And the more integration that we can create together, the better. So I hope that is in line with your answer.
Well, it's exactly in line. I love the answer. No, the way we see the next generation of smart buildings, and why I say next generation, I see an overly focus on the users. But the building is made for the users, but it's being maintained by several service providers. And what a true, in my opinion, a true smart building should provide is as much data as possible, so it can provide as much different stakeholders as possible, not just the owner, but I'd also want to cut costs on facility management, like cleaning is an obvious answer, but if I can predict a certain amount of maintenance, I can cut away a lot of the moments where the engineers, where the installer need to be in a building. So then you help the building or portfolio be more efficient for the users by talking to the different stakeholders itself. That's what I.
And just to add to that, you know, smart building is still in its I wouldn't say infancy stage, but it's toddler stage, right? It's still young in its evolution, and there's growing pains that we're all going through in trying to understand how to make the best smart building, or how to get the most out of smart technologies or smart initiatives. A perfect example is we had a client who, the moment they started implementing smart solutions, some of their suppliers in other areas said, okay, well, now it's not my job anymore, right? So there's also this human aspect that we need to continue to keep our finger on and support people, because there's a lot of discussions that need to happen between parties, and making sure that we get the most out of various aspects. So I second what you say. You know, we need to find ways to better communicate with the stakeholders involved on all levels.
Great. And the next question is on, they call it different verticals of buildings, but how does smart certification evaluate different building sizes and types, like office, hospitality, industrial, residential?
Yeah, so what we have is a benchmark system. So what we've done is, per vertical, we have smart buildings. So if you think you have the smartest building, please come get in touch, and let's go through the process. But that benchmark allows you to compare to properties in the same asset class. So we've done co-working spaces, we've done office spaces, we've done multi-tenant, single tenant, we've done restaurant, we've done a hostel. So they're starting to really fill in, and like I said, we're about 2 years busy now. So there's endless potential to how we continue to go, and we're doing manufacturing now as well, which is fantastic. And then what's really interesting is the effect of what you can use the smart building certification for, right? Like, for instance, the multi-tenant building, as a developer or as an owner, you may want to just drop kind of the smart readiness into the building, right? Because often we tell the tenant, oh, that's up to you, it's the fit out, that's your role. But what we can do is we can use the smart building certification to show the smart readiness of how well we've delivered smart for tenants. And you can use it then to also look at the gaps or the opportunities of what you want to offer on top of that smart readiness to potential tenants. So you can say, hey, look, we can offer you better air quality. We can offer you better management on your CO2 or your occupancy, better access control. These types of things can all be value generating value propositions put on top of the basics. So I think developers are in the process of trying to understand what smart means. And I think that those are really cool cases where you can start to really make it practical. And I will say one other thing is we're seeing two really distinct cases coming out right now for the certification. We're seeing developers who are building the building to hold on to the building. And when that's the case, they know exactly what they're trying to do with the building. So they put smart in a really conscious way that allows them to know exactly how they're going to pull value out of that smart infrastructure. But then we also have a number of developers who are putting smart into a building to sell it or to rent it or to find a way, to pass it on. And I find that they're having a much harder time translating the value of smart to the potential buyers or tenants. And again, I think that that's where there's a certain level of change management or communication or visualization like Switch can do that shows this is what this building is capable of doing. And as a potential buyer or tenant, this is going to be the value add from that technology. Because I think when that handover happens, very often we can see a huge drop in the usage of the technology just because they don't know it's there. And you lose 80% or 70% of that technology just because we didn't know it could do that. So I think those are really interesting case studies that we're starting to see.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I totally agree. The long-term investor does not have a bigger problem to see the benefits. The short-term investor, I think that is a group we need to convince that not only they want a filled building just to sell. It's much more worth in an occupied situation. But if we can convince them what the buyer would like, they want a building that is future-proof and where tenants stick for a longer period. I think they will realize pretty much what they're dealing with when it comes to smart. Because the long-term investor they need, it's not just development and sale. The long-term investor needs to oblige compliance, especially here in Europe, very strict. I don't know how it's on your side of the pond, Rebecca, but here they need to show a lot of data to get finance to have even their offices remain open and such. So yeah. I totally agree, Nicholas.
Yeah, and I think that goes to kind of the intro that I gave, is there's thousands of scenarios of what you can do with smart. There's tons and tons of different solutions that you can choose. And really it's about getting clear on the result that you're after and then thinking about how you're going to achieve that. So if you are a developer who's developing a building for a potential buyer or tenant, it's good to try and get clear on what type of tenant or what kind of experience you're trying to deliver for those, because then you can build a more useful smart strategy.
And I'm going to ask a question because I'm curious now. We talk about the smartest buildings, but there's this base smart, like you're talking about, someone developing a building and selling it. We talk about in the building industry, like standard of care or like this level. What are you seeing right now as base smart, or what can people think about, to get in?
Yeah, Richard, you want to go first, or you want me to?
No, I'm curious what you have to say.
Well, so in Europe, they launched the Smart Readiness Indicator a number of years ago, or 2 years ago. They put out all the research about it, and really, it's looking at kind of the connectivity, the cabling infrastructure, making sure that pretty much the building is ready to have components attached to it in order to do all those things that we just spoke about. So a developer can build it up to that level and then hand it over to a new owner, a new tenant, to actually go configure the smart building the way that they would like to see it. And I'm sure Richard has something to add to that. But what you're seeing is that developers are starting to go different degrees as far as what that smart readiness means for them. So I would say that developers individually are also creating their definition of what smart readiness means. And I would love for everybody to have the same definition of what that means, but I think it's varying quite extensively across the spectrum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agree. Yeah, we measure up to the expectations out of the European Commission. The Smart Readiness Indicator, indeed, is a tool developed in cooperation with the market, and it tackles certain aspects. But I would like to use that as a tool to create every time a more smarter building. Because the European Commission, they said, well, we need smart buildings to tackle future energy-related problems, to tackle the Paris-Proof agreement that we have, to decarbonize the built environment. And I believe that they're on the right way, but the majority of smart buildings here in Western Europe, it's pretty much, how can I facilitate the user in a healthy building and phone apps to control that building, other than how can I create a beautiful backbone that supplies me with the data I need to implement other innovations now and in 10 years.
Yeah, and the technology is moving quickly. So what we already see in the literature of the Smart Readiness Indicator is aged content already. The technology has already surpassed their understanding of what it should do. So I think that that's something that we as a collective need to keep our finger on the pulse and push each other to keep trying to do more and trying to do it better. For instance, we're speaking with a building we're certifying right now, and we are diving into their energy management. And they have it pretty much down to the socket level of the building, where they can measure per coffee machine how much energy consumption is being used. And that just goes a lot further now. And I think the moment that gets set as the benchmark, then we're going to push others to think in the same way. We have a lot of questions of, is that even possible? And now we have proof that it is possible. So that's how we also need to be moving the benchmark and helping people to stay up to date with it.
That's great. Thank you both so much. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Hopefully we get to talk again soon. Any closing thoughts?
I'll start. I just think it's such a pleasure to be working with the team at Switch and with Richard and the team at Nexton. I think the support and contribution you all bring is fantastic. Your solutions and your consultancy and the things that you do is also very, very impressive. It's been really, really wonderful to be here. So thank you for this.
Yeah, thank you. Similar. We need to cooperate more to reach the goals of the market, of the real estate market. So thank you for your cooperation, Nicholas and Rebecca. We see that we need to work together and educate the market. That's what last time I spoke to Deb Noller, that's what she literally said, and I truly support her in her comment there. We need to educate the market where we will be in 5 to 10 years, and but yeah, above all, we need to do that together and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.